Hand over all the money right now, or you will be arrested and thrown in jail on suspicion of money laundering," the officer said coldly in the middle of the empty road, showing no hesitation. But the old man refused to let go of the bag of money. Growing impatient, the two officers suddenly grabbed the bag from him by force. Without another word, they got back into their patrol car and drove away with the money. An elderly farmer lives in a quiet rural outskirts, thin and weak, keeping to himself for years. He is completely isolated from society, with no real connections or communication. His past is unknown, hidden behind silence. One day, urgent news arrives. His daughter, living abroad, suddenly falls into a critical medical condition and needs emergency surgery immediately. The hospital demands urgent payment, and every hour matters. There is no time for delay or negotiation. Without hesitation, he opens his only life savings, 100,000 USD. Money he has kept for years, meant for an uncertain future, now becomes the only chance to save his daughter's life. He rushes to the bank in the middle of the day. At the counter, he requests an immediate full withdrawal. His face is tense, but he stays controlled. Everything is urgent, no time for long explanations. After completing the process, he receives a large sum of cash, carefully packed. He leaves the bank in silence, carrying the heavy bag, quickly getting into his car and driving away toward where his daughter is waiting for survival. On a quiet rural road outside the city, while he is driving, a police patrol car suddenly appears behind him with flashing lights. He is ordered to pull over for an immediate traffic stop. Two officers step out and approach his vehicle with suspicion. They fire rapid questions about why he is carrying such a large amount of cash, demanding answers right there on the roadside without giving him time to prepare. The man stays calm and steady. He clearly explains that the money was just withdrawn from the bank to save his daughter, who is undergoing emergency surgery overseas. His voice shakes slightly, but he remains firm. At first, the officers begin checking his documents and verifying the transaction. But once they see the large amount of cash, their attitude starts to change. Suspicion shifts into calculation, and their focus is no longer purely professional. One officer begins to show greed. They deliberately slow down the process, ask unnecessary questions, and delay confirmation of his explanation. The situation turns tense, transforming a routine check into an abuse of power. They immediately demand that he further prove the origin of the money, even though he has already provided valid bank withdrawal documents. Instead of properly verifying the paperwork, the two officers keep changing their questions, applying psychological pressure, and dragging the situation out in an unnatural way. After deliberately making things difficult, they decide to seize all the cash, claiming it must be verified for source of funds, but without any clear official warrant. The report they write is vague and incomplete. They force him to leave the scene with no proper receipt for the seized money. Unwilling to accept this treatment, he goes directly to the police station to file a complaint. However, he is pushed from one desk to another, with no one taking responsibility. Every response is avoidance, delay, and deliberate deflection. When he continues to demand answers, the atmosphere inside the station turns harsh. He is warned that if he keeps pressuring or disrupting procedures, he could be arrested for disturbing public order. The room feels tense and openly threatening. His case file is then handled in an irregular way. Instead of being escalated to higher authorities, the documents are ignored or improperly stored. There is no sign of a real investigation being started at the local level. Leaving the station in silence, he immediately contacts an old friend who once worked in the federal oversight system. He asks for a full review of the case, including security cameras, traffic data, and the duty logs of the officers involved. The old friend quickly activates a special review protocol. All surveillance footage, system logs, and evidence records are locked down to prevent any editing or deletion. The entire timeline of events is reconstructed minute by minute using digital data. During deeper analysis, the federal system uncovers his true identity. a former high-level federal agent who once worked on major national security programs. This immediately escalates the case into a federal-level special investigation. At the local police station, chaos begins to spread. Extracted surveillance footage shows the full incident from start to finish. Every action, word, and decision is replayed in detail, causing confusion and panic among several officers. The 2 officers directly involved in the traffic stop and cash seizure are immediately suspended pending investigation. The suspension order comes down quickly from higher authorities, marking the shift from a local dispute to a serious criminal investigation. The investigation does not stop with the 2 officers. Under federal orders, the entire asset seizure process at the police station is reviewed from the beginning. Old case files, seizure reports, and patrol logs are pulled and cross-checked, expanding the investigation far beyond the original incident. The findings quickly shock everyone involved. Investigators uncover a long-standing pattern of misconduct at the station. Cash theft, unlawful asset seizures without proper receipts, and later falsification of records to cover it up. Camera footage, financial data, and internal logs confirm this was not an isolated mistake, but an organized practice. Immediately, the entire station leadership is suspended. A number of senior officers and involved personnel are arrested for criminal investigation. Illegally seized assets are frozen and processed for federal restitution, expanding into multiple past cases with similar patterns. The situation quickly grew beyond a normal criminal case. Many citizens who had previously been stopped and searched by the same department came forward with complaints and evidence. Their stories followed the same pattern: cash taken without proper receipts, pressure to sign incomplete or unclear documents, and no real chance to challenge what happened. As media coverage exploded, the case turned into a statewide scandal. Public trust in the local police collapsed, forcing state authorities to step in and take direct control of the situation as federal oversight intensified. Under growing pressure from the public, the press, and federal agencies, the head of the police department was forced to hold an emergency press conference. In a tense and serious statement, he admitted that systemic violations had taken place in the handling of seized property and issued a formal apology to the public and all affected victims. He promised a full internal overhaul, including strict new oversight procedures, independent monitoring systems, and full cooperation with federal investigators to hold everyone responsible accountable. The press conference marked a clear turning point, signaling the end of cover-ups and the beginning of a deep cleanup inside the entire department. In the end, the man's money is fully returned along with official federal compensation. He manages to get his daughter the surgery in time, and the operation is successful. Inside the system, however, his quiet presence, never resisting, only observing, becomes a hard warning. Even a small act of corruption can collapse an entire institution once the truth comes to light.